Paul Gascoigne or Gazza was one of the best English footballers of his generation. He is however probably best known for his antics off of the field. In this video we give a timeline of some of Gazza's craziest tales. Strap in and get comfortable for what is probably the wildest set of stories in global sporting history. 1985, we will start off with a fresh-faced Gazza aged 17. Newcastle were playing against Watford in the FA Youth Cup. Newcastle win, and at full time, Watford chairman Elton John comes into the changing room to congratulate the team. A naked Gazza stands up in the bath chanting, "Elton, Elton, give us a song." 1987, one of Gazza's best friends, Jimmy Five Bellies, stumbles home from the pub, and Paul hands him a hot mince pie. Five Bellies proceeds to eat the pie before a laughing hysterically Gascoigne reveals he'd filled the pie with cat shit. 1988, as Gascoigne seals his move to Spurs, Jimmy Five Bellies and the rest of Gazza's mates head to London. Spurs pay for a lavish hotel, putting up Gazza and his entourage. They decided to go on a 3-day bender, trashing the hotel room. Gazza begins contract talks by saying, "We'd like to thank you for the best 3 days of our lives." 1989, Gascoigne somehow convinces the handlers at Broxbourne Zoo to lend him an ostrich. He dresses the bird in a Spurs shirt, and brings it to training in a brown sack. After releasing the bemused bird on the training ground, Gazza spends the next 4 hours trying to catch it. 1990, Gazza is called up to the England squad for Italia 90. All the players are asked to mouth their name for the panning shots. Gazza instead mouths, "fucking wanker," into the camera, and the BBC have to use it for the whole tournament. 1990, before England's group stage game against Egypt, Gazza decides to pay tribute to the Egyptian team's heritage. He wrapped himself in toilet roll to dress as a mummy before jumping in a swimming pool. Predictably, the tissue melts away, leaving Gazza completely naked. 1990, when flying with the England team, Gazza asked to go and see the captain to calm his nerves. The captain showed him some of the buttons, to which Gazza decided to flick one, which immediately sent the plane into a nosedive. 1991, when Gazza is injured in the FA Cup final for Spurs, his old pal Jimmy Five Bellies delivers a pellet gun to his hospital bed. They spend the next week shooting pellets and lobbing water balloons at the photographers camped outside. 1992, at his first press conference in Rome, he stands up, asks for silence, and farts at an ear-splitting volume. He's later fined £39,000 after responding to a reporter's question by burping into TV microphones. 1992, when Gazza first met Lazio chairman Sergio Cragnotti, he said, "Tua figlia, grande tete," which translates to "your daughter, big tits." 1992, Gazza is terrified by a snake in his Italian villa, so he bashes it to death with a broomstick. Instead of disposing of the remains, he brought it with him to training the following day, hiding it in the jacket pocket of one of his teammates. 1993, Gazza notices a teammate, Aaron Winter, dining in an upmarket restaurant at the same time as him. He calls the waiter over and explains that his teammate would pay for his bill. As he said this, he shouted over to Aaron and waved at him. Aaron smiled and waved back, not knowing that he was agreeing to cover Gazza's food and drinks. 1993, in another upmarket restaurant, Gazza notices there are a number of lobsters to choose from in a huge tank. He explains that he would like a lobster for his meal, but then proceeds to jump into the tank whilst dressed in his suit. It takes him a good few minutes of splashing around before he finally grabs his desired lobster and hands it to the waiter. 1993, Gazza decides to prank his manager, Dino Zoff, by covering himself with fake blood, and laying motionless in front of the team bus. 1993, once more he decides to play a prank on his manager. As the team bus is driving through a dark tunnel, Gazza quickly strips completely naked and jumps into the seat beside Zoff. When the bus came out of the tunnel, the manager is shocked to see a naked Gazza smiling at him. 1994, during a trip to London, Gazza runs into Liam Gallagher in Soho's Groucho Club. When the Oasis frontman goes to the toilet, Gascoigne steals his seat and polishes off the steak he was eating. When he realizes what's happened, Liam gets his own back by spraying Gazza with a fire extinguisher. 1995, when playing for Rangers in the Old Firm derby against their arch-rivals Celtic, a majority Catholic club, upon scoring, Gazza decided to deliver a very controversial celebration. Gazza pretended to play a flute representing the Orange Order Protestant parade. The celebration resulted in Gazza receiving death threats. 1995, whilst warming up with England at Wembley, Gazza decided to run off with one of the Royal Marines' helmets. He was followed to the changing room by a sergeant major who dressed him down in front of his teammates. 1996. After winning the Scottish Cup with Rangers, Gazza was banned from attending the celebration. He snuck in anyway and then proceeded to strip naked and dance on the top of a table in the Indian restaurant. 1996. During an open training session with England, Gascoigne pulls down the shorts of his teammate Paul Ince. Ince's backside was photographed and appeared on all the national back pages the following day. 1996. Much to the delight of bystanders, Gascoigne took a particular shine to someone using a pneumatic drill in a central London street. He asked to have a go on it, pleasing shoppers as he happily drilled a number of huge holes in the London street. 1996. England boss Terry Venables subs Gascoigne off on 80 minutes in a friendly. Gazza belts for the exit, where his mates are waiting with a car. With the game still playing, Gazza is spotted outside a nearby pub, smoking a cigarette whilst still wearing his England kit, much to the delight of the fellow drinkers. 1997. At Rangers, Gazza perfects one of his favourite pranks. He hides not one but two rotting fish in teammate Gordon Dury's car. The plan worked perfectly as Dury found the first fish but thought it was the only one. He proceeded to drive around with a rotting fish in his car before deciding to cut his losses and scrap the vehicle. 1998. During a golf trip with his Rangers teammates, Gazza spots a swan strutting beside a lock, and stuffs it into the back of his Range Rover. He drives around the Highlands in utter chaos as the swan attacks Ali McCoist on the back seat. 1998. When playing for Middlesbrough, Gazza stole the team bus and drove it around the stadium, performing laps with his teammates on board. Gascoigne's joyride ended when he crashed the bus into a fence, causing damage to the vehicle. The incident caused quite a stir in the media and Gascoigne was heavily criticised for his actions. 2000. Gazza turned up to training wearing a pair of Shaquille O'Neal's basketball boots he had bought at a charity auction, which were 14 sizes too big. What made matters worse is he had driven to the ground wearing them. 2000. Whilst playing at Everton, Gazza decided to buy a parrot from a pet shop on the way to the ground. He stuffed it in his bag only to let it out whilst his manager was addressing the players. Understandably, carnage ensued. 2003. Our last tale shows that Gazza did not mature with age. When playing in China, he managed to persuade staff to let him visit the zoo and also feed the tigers. He was handed a horse's head, to which Gazza proceeded to throw at some penguins in their enclosure instead. I am sure there are more, but that was a selection of what I believe to be the funniest Gazza stories in existence. If you can think of any more, feel free to leave them in the comments.